Last time on the Slowburban Project, Lou installed the trick flow heads. Today on Garage Insider TV, the Comp Cam, Summit timing set, and Howard's Cams lifters go in next with Lou Santiago.
We are back and we got a bunch of cool stuff from Summit Racing. I'm just going to go through them real quick because I want to finish pulling the camshaft out of the Slowburban, and then we're going to stab in our new one. So what we're doing is we're going to hydraulic roller cam. We're getting rid of the old hydraulic lifter setup. Why? We'll get into that in a minute. But we've got the hydraulic rollers, the intake gaskets, a Comp Cam's camshaft, a trick flow intake. This is a Summit timing chain. It's a double roller timing chain. This is worth talking about that. I'll tell you about that after I get the camshaft in. Roller rockers, new harmonic balancer, and we will be ready to rock. So I'm going to yank out the old cam and start on it.
Wish your pickup rode better when it was empty and didn't squat when you're hauling? Here's the perfect solution. A complete heavy-duty air suspension system from Strutmasters.com. It comes with everything you need and bolts right in your truck with no modification. Raise and lower the back end for easy trailer hookup, and it rides like a dream. Get a complete air suspension kit for your truck at Strutmasters.com or call us at 866-597-2397.
Now, the old hydraulic lifters need to be removed. I like to use a razor blade or a utility knife or a scribe to grab the lifter and pull it out of the bore. Sometimes you're going to need to turn the camshaft in order to get the lifter to the top of the hole. This way you can extract them easier. I'm leaving the lifters next to the holes that they came out of. It's important that you keep everything in order. Important to keep everything in order because the lifters are now a match set to the camshaft. They'll go on a piece of cardboard, on a tool cart, and then they'll be put in something better to be put away. It's time to pull out the camshaft. I'm using the bolts here as a handle to take it out. Take your time when removing the camshaft from the engine. You don't want to mess up the cam bearings. All right, you guys, sit down, hold on. I'm going to explain to you how I understand camshafts. And to me, it seems really simple because it was explained to me a certain way and it just made sense in my head. But camshafts are really important when you're building a car because you need to keep in mind, am I going to build something that's pretty much stock that I can get in and drive to California and get good gas mileage? Not saying I want to go to California, but just saying that's important. Am I building it to run endurance races like Le Mans or one of those races where the thing's going to run for 24 hours straight with no break? Drag racing, where you're going from basically idling to wide open throttle and it's got to live. Okay, so you got to think about this for a second. Your camshaft is really important. Now, when you look in a cam catalog, you'll have the power range, and that's where they say that the power is going to be the best between those numbers, whether it's like 5,500 and 8,500. In there, that's the sweet spot for the cam. So you have to look at that. You also have to keep in mind, are you running an automatic or are you running a torque converter? An automatic or with a stall converter or a stick car. That's really important because if you have too small of a stall, you're going to load the converter, which means you're putting heat in the transmission, which means it's not where it needs to be because you're going to create other problems. If it's a stick, you could put the car in neutral and let it idle. So consequently, you have a lower idle with a stick than an automatic in some cases. It's just a bunch of different things that you need to keep in mind. When I was learning about engines, what I would do is get a cam catalog and I would go through and figure out what I think I need. Okay, I've got 12-to-1 compression, I'm 30 over, I got these heads, and then I'd pick a cam. And I would call the cam deal, I would call whoever, Comp Cams. I'd call them up and say, here's the deal. This is what I'm thinking. This is the part number that I'm thinking about. What do I need? What do you suggest? And he would tell me. If I was spot on, I was spot on. But if he would say, well, I think this is what you need to run, I would ask him to explain to me why that's the choice that I need to make. And 9 out of 10 times, well, 10 out of 10 times actually, I would take his recommendation because he's supposed to know more about it. He's the guy that's on the front line selling these things. He may work in the shop, you never know. But he has way more knowledge than I do, so you need to keep that in mind. There's a few things that you need to keep in mind also. On a camshaft, you have these they talk base circles, all right? It's the lobes, it's the separations. If you're looking at the lobe, they're separate. And if they're doing a 110, it could be here. If they're doing a 115, say, it's wider apart. So you're moving it in and out. And the reason why they set them up like that, the lobes, they set the lobes up, is simple. It helps with scavenging. It helps make power or take power away according to what you're trying to do. This cam, for instance, is based on a 110. So we're just going to say this is 110. These are the tops of my lobes, right? Well, the intake is 104. So the intake is moved in a little bit. And the reason why they do that is because this is essentially an RV cam and they want to give you that low end grunt, and it still does fine for scavenging. It's going to have a decent idle and all that. So you need to ask questions. That's the way I understand cams. I'm not saying that I'm 100% correct, but my understanding has gotten me into some really fast cars, building them a certain way, but I always ask questions because I don't know it all. I don't profess to know it all. So my next step is to put in this camshaft and we're good to go. Oh, one other thing. This is a hydraulic roller camshaft. A few years ago, probably 10 years ago, the EPA said we got to take zinc out of oil. And that's like the major lubricating property in engine oil, one of them. What happens with a hydraulic cam, hydraulic tappet, if you don't put an additive in, or if the oil that you use doesn't have the additive, you can wipe out the cam because it doesn't have enough lubrication properties, and that's why hydraulic roller cams have become popular. That's why I'm going to this style camshaft for that reason, because I'll be honest with you, I'm just lazy. I don't change my own oil anymore. It's just that simple. I got other things to do, so I just take it somewhere. So call it what you want. So just keep that in mind. Now this cam is going to be no good because I'm actually going to make a handle out of this to install camshafts. I'm going to lop this off right here, take it over to my friend's house, put it in his lathe, bore these holes out a little bit, punch a hole in the middle and make a handle. I'll probably use the other half of the camshaft to make the handle. That way it just looks like a camshaft putting in a camshaft. Camshaft on camshaft crime. Woo! All right, so I'm going to go put on a pair of gloves and I'll be right back. Next step, putting it in. A couple of things to take note of. The cam is dry and I'm wearing gloves. I like to prime the engine before I start it. This way the cam journals get plenty of oil. I'll also pour some oil in the lifter valley so it gets on the lobes. This way everything gets lubed. Everybody loves some lube because you never want to put a dry shaft in a hole. You got to take your time with this because if you don't, you can really mess up the bearings. The reason for the gloves is pretty simple. The acid in your skin will leave fingerprints on the cam, and you don't want to have issues down the road. It's just not good for it. So it's better to be safe than sorry. If you don't have gloves, you want to use a rag that doesn't leave a lot of lint, because the lint could cause bigger problems down the road. It'll get into the oiling system. It can really screw things up. So try to use gloves. So take your time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Now the bolts can go away. A little FYI, for you guys who've never built an engine, remember one thing, like on these small block Chevys, big block Chevys, your Fords, your older Ford engines, where this is the standard configuration, the smaller cam bearing is actually the first one in. So they go smaller to bigger. Just remember that. All right, so the next step is the timing chain. Oh, before I get into that, don't lose your cam card. It's really important. It tells you all the information about your cam. So this is a link chain. This is what they use from the factory. Here's your timing marks. No big deal. These chains, because they're just little links, they're flat links. They tend to stretch. So they don't last as long and they cause friction. Well, they'll last 100,000 miles. So they do last a little bit of time. But this one here is a double roller chain. It's like a bicycle chain, as you can see. Less friction. It's a stronger chain. But here's something that I find really cool about this one. Now, I've never seen this before. Normally you get a bushing in here, and it's these offset bushings, and that's how you can degree your cam, get it where you want it in the sweet spot, right? But now they're doing it on the crank. So this is the bottom crank gear. It goes on, and it's actually marked 0, retard 2 degrees, 4 degrees, 6 degrees, 8 degrees. And then this side is advanced, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now this cam calls for straight up. So when I install the timing set, it's going to be the Woodruff pin is the Woodruff key. I'm sorry, the Woodruff key is going to be on 0, and that's where I put it. I don't have to use it for degreeing or anything like that. Now they say that this is a much better way to go, and I get it, because with the dowel, you had these little dowels that went over the boss, the cam boss, and it was off-center drilled, and you could turn it, and it would turn the upper gear. And it works, don't get me wrong. We used it for years, but this is the first time I've ever seen this, so we're gonna try it out. Sure, why not? Bam! Monday Morning Racer, here we are on the set. Lou, you sure are a nice clean frame. Oh, well, thank you very much. Next up, you need a shop dog. No. Everybody's gotta have a thing.
Be sure to catch the episode where Lou answers your questions right here on Garage Insider TV. By the way, hit the like button for this video, subscribe to Garage Insider TV, and tell your motorhead buddies about Lou Santiago's YouTube channel. Back to Lou right now on the Slowburban.
All right, so I don't have a crank socket. No big deal. I've got an adjustable wrench. Some guys call it a crescent wrench. Some guys call it a thumb wrench. Thumb wrench, you know, I get it. I learned this years ago when I was a kid. This old guy showed me this. He said you just put it on there and it actually catches the woodruff and you can bar the engine over with it. If you go too far, the other side will do the same thing. Just spin it, just take it off, put it on, and it doesn't really matter what side, but I need the angle because, you know, I'm got the limited space, and you can turn it back. How cool is that? It's the little things, guys. It's the little things. Go this way again. This way, because I need to get close. Go the other way. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put the woodruff at 12. So now I got to find 0. Right there. So I get the slot right. Slide that on. Get a little implement to hit with or tap with, and I'm good. All right, I'm going to take some heat here. I'm just going to do this. I shouldn't, but I don't have my tool for it. Got to go a little bit more. That ain't good enough. I don't have my brass drift, so I had to figure something out. So I'm just going to use this. Being that I'm going to clean it up anyway, I got the oil pan loose. I'll just go this route. Granted, it's not the best way, but it'll get me there. I just got to make sure I clean everything. All right, I have encountered a problem that I was not expecting. This new timing gear doesn't have a mark like this original one. See right there, that little dot? It doesn't have it. So we all know that when you want to put together an engine, you have to have it at #1 top dead center, which means technically the lobes are pointing down, so the lifters are all the way down in the bore, right? Makes sense to me. Well, I figured, okay, I'm not sure because this gear doesn't have marks on it. It's got no mark. I don't know why. Maybe they missed it in production. I don't know. So I grabbed a couple of lifters. I went to drop them in the lifter bore, and guess what? I can't get them in because they don't fit because the heads are in the way. So what that means for me and you is I made a huge mistake that I didn't even know was going to happen, because I've done this before and never ran into this problem. This is the first time this has happened to me. So I have to take the heads off, put the lifters in, put the heads back on. And I'm not going to reuse these gaskets. Even though they haven't been heated, I'm just not going to use them. I'll get another set of gaskets. But I'm going to leave the camshaft in so the lifters don't go all the way through and get caught on the lifter, on the retaining bar. So that's where we at right now. So when you guys come back, I'll have everything torn apart, put back together, and we'll get back at it. First time for me.